Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome, everyone, to the very first Power of Witness episode. This is going to be an introduction for this exciting collaboration that Finn and I are doing on our show with Catherine. And we'll get more into all the details here in a second. But we're super excited that all of you are here, and we can't wait to share this with all of you.
Yeah, Catherine reached out a few weeks or months ago. I don't know anymore. What is time? But she has been doing, and she's going to explain really much better what this is, but she's been doing these Power of Witness cohorts, and she's really thrilled with the success of them and thought that it would be a really valuable thing to put out into the podcast world. And we kind of heard from her how it would work. And actually, one of our previous guests, Jack and Jill, who you'll actually hear a lot more from, reached out to us as well and told us how amazing it was. And so we put this together, and we're super, super excited for it.
Yeah, part of the motivation was to be able to provide a platform for people to dive deeper into their relationships and themselves on our show. And this is a lot of very vulnerable conversation that is somewhat different than we've had in the past. So we're really excited to be able to have these people work through difficult things, and also have all of
us work through difficult things.
Yes. And then all of us also witness these people doing this hard work.
Yeah. So a couple of things, since we love to be transparent here on the show. Part of doing this, part of the motivation was to provide some, not marketing, but exposure for the cohorts and for this Power of Witness program that Catherine does. There are two more cohorts going to be happening, one in February 2021 and one in March of 2021, and probably
more after that.
And probably more after that. So again, part of this was to get the word out about this, but also like the amount of benefit and the amount of just amazing information that comes out of this, if all you do is listen to these, is incredible. And so we felt like we could do multiple things at once. We could give you, the listeners, a ton of value for free, but also help provide some marketing for Catherine and to promote this program, which we know is helping a ton of people. So we like to be transparent about that. And that's sort of what this is. Also, we wanted to make it really clear that everybody who took part in this signed a sort of a waiver or release form with Catherine so that we can share this publicly. And they received what they go through here. They received that for free. They haven't necessarily been paid, but they are doing this at no cost to them as sort of a thank you for being a part of this and for sharing their story.
Yes. And now I think it makes sense to turn it over to Catherine real quick to
It almost does. I just remembered we need to tell people, if they want to learn more about this and how to sign up and get information on joining the cohorts in February and March, there are links in the show notes for every single episode, including this one, to how you can sign up and find out more. So now go ahead, Emma.
Let's have Catherine introduce what Power of Witness is, and we'll jump in with more after that.
Thank you so much for having me and for being willing to go out on a limb with me a few months ago when I pitched this idea to you. As everyone can probably hear, we were recording this at the end of the series. And so we're looking back with the glow of 2020 hindsight at how great and wise our idea was, right? But you all really went out on a limb to try something edgy and new with me. And I'm so appreciative of your bravery. Not that I was surprised given what your podcast is all about. But yes, thank you for having me. Some of you may have heard me on Normalizing Non-Monogamy and other episodes where I shared my experience up to that point with my husband, Ray. And then also I got to be a guest on Focus Fridays, which was such an honor for me. This Power of Witness idea that Finn and Emma jumped on with me. Let me just give a really brief overview. We're going to get into it in the episode. You'll learn so much more. It came from how much benefit I have gotten being a coach and a therapist in my unique seat at the top row of the bleachers of other people's relationships. So I get to sit up here and watch them play, air quotes around that. I don't get to watch them do the fun play. This is the play of their relationship when they're running around. You can imagine a football team all burdened with gear and mouthpieces and helmets, and they're sweating and they're snotting and they're grunting and they're bumping against things. And it's hard to even know which way to throw the ball and where the goal is and why all of a sudden you're running left and somebody bangs you from a side. And when you're down in it, when I'm down in it with my own relationships, it's so disorienting and hard. But when couples come to me, I get to sit at the top row of the bleachers and watch it play out like a coach. There you go. I'm a coach. I get to see this. And it's so easy to be like, hey, run left, step back, throw it left, throw it right. And so I have learned so much about relating and relationships just from the honor of being able to be at the top row of the bleachers with my clients. And I have found that being able to be at the top row of the bleachers with my clients has helped me have more insight when it's me down on the field in my relationships. So I wanted to invite people to come to the top row of the bleachers with me. And that's how this whole idea started. So Power of Witness is a group of couples differing in size. The one we're going to present to you is a little bit smaller than the cohort that I usually run, just for time's sake, where I invite these couples to be part of a group, and we deep dive with one couple per week. And they get 50 minutes of focused coaching with me. I do a intro consultation before their session and get to know them, give them some resources. We decide what kind of issues they want to dig in. And then they have 50 minutes of coaching, and we call that the hot seat. And the other couples watch me coach them. And we dig into these are all real issues. There's some emotions. It doesn't always wrap up beautifully. This is real and raw, what you're going to hear in these sessions ahead of us. And then at the end of that, we ask the top row of the bleacher participants, the rest of the couples, to give feedback about what they saw, how it affected them, what they felt. I teach them, you're going to hear this, I teach them how to give appropriate feedback, which many of them say helps them give feedback within their couple. And then at the end of that, the couple that was on the hot seat will tell us how it felt to be on the hot seat and what it felt like to have that feedback.
Yeah, I think one thing to maybe just make clear is the participants that we have doing this. These are all people who have been on the show before. We reached out to everyone who came on our show, at least everyone that we were able to reach out to. We didn't do so good at the early days of keeping track of people's contact information. I think we got almost everybody. Anyway, we reached out to everybody who's been on the show and asked if anybody would be willing to participate in this. And we had a handful of people reach back out to us that wanted to do this. And so that is who you're listening to. So everybody who's been part of this Power of Witness that you're about to hear was also on the show. And the links to their episodes will be in the show notes for this if you want to go back and listen. And it would probably not necessarily be required, but would probably add some value to what Definitely. You're hearing, to hear a little more about their background story.
Definitely. Right. So I wanted to jump in and say what you can expect is the episode you're listening to right now is the introduction episode. We're going to, Catherine and Finn and I are recording this intro right now, but eventually here we're going to jump into introducing all of the couples and doing the an overview of what to expect here. And then you're going to have 4 more episodes released over every Friday for the next few weeks, with each couple doing a coaching session or a session on the hot seat. And then the end, we'll have one more episode where it's a takeaway episode. So there's 6 total episodes that you get to listen to for Power of Witness, and they'll be released over the next following Fridays.
And maybe one thing, Catherine, if we could have you talk a little bit about the adult chair versus child chair mindset. That's something that comes up quite often. And I know we weren't super familiar, or at least I wasn't super familiar with it before this. And I thought that would be a really helpful, maybe framework for people to understand before we get going.
Yes, I'll try to do a quick intro about that. So this theory is based on inner family systems work, where the idea is that we personify different characters that, quote, live within us. there is a wonderful podcast, a mentor of mine, Michelle Chalfant, who has a podcast called The Adult Chair. And she explains, she has a framework that I use that I've added to. And also in work, there's a theory called, in counseling work, there's a theory called Gestalt that works on, again, this personification. They talk about chairs, where some of the work you do is you have literally 2 chairs in the room and you imagine yourself as a child and you sit over in that child chair and you speak to yourself as an adult. Now, sometimes when you first hear this, it can sound really, I don't know, people would say schizophrenic or multiple personality disorder or dissociated. But what I find is when people can personify the different parts of themselves, different ages, what their needs were at that time that weren't being met, and how those needs are still trying to be met, how we come up with adaptive skills and strategies at different ages where we were in our development that we're still trying to use now that maybe have now become maladaptive as grown adults, where they were really helpful to get what our needs met when we were little with our family of origin. But now those same skills that we've brought through to our current relationships are hurting our current relationships. So you're going to hear me talk about that quite a bit. I do interfamily systems, chair work, parts work. You can call it lots of different things. I do that with all of my clients. Nobody is safe from that. Everybody gets that work with me. There's a course you're going to hear us talk about that I've created called Relationship Bootcamp, where I take people through different modules to get their relationship in kind of tip-top shape to be ready for non-monogamy, really just to be ready for the challenges of life, but certainly non-monogamy. And this is such important work to me that there are 2 of the 10 modules that are focused on teaching chair model, interfamily systems, parts work, because we use that as a framework to understand what's happening. So you're going to hear that come up with most all of the couples. All of these couples were gifted the Relationship Bootcamp so that they could go through these modules and have an understanding and a similar vernacular. That's why I created my Relationship Bootcamp, because I wanted to have this shared vernacular with my clients. So we went ahead and gifted that to these brave souls that jumped on to be in our Normalizing Non-Monogamy Power of Witness program. So you're going to hear that they've already had some of that background to understand. In the show notes, we give you lots of podcasts that are free and available to you, so you can start to have an understanding of that without having to buy my bootcamp course. But of course, if you're interested, that'll take a deeper dive into it. Does that explain it enough? It's so natural to me that sometimes I forget to make it explicit and clear. If there's anything else you want to ping me,
I think it's great, and I think what you said there right at the end too is that throughout this, and just to reiterate, there is an amazing amount of benefit that you can get out of all of this at the free level, right? There are resources, everything that gets mentioned throughout. There's free podcasts, free books. Well, I don't know if the books are free, but a couple of bucks for a book, right? And so there's a lot that you're getting here without having to buy into the Power of Witness course or your relationship group.
Yes,
absolutely. Great. Which is really important to, I know the 3 of us have talked offline about how important that is, that yes, we're all trying to make a living and find a way to make this our career. But all 3 of us are, one of the things I think we've always connected on is how important it is to all of us that there are resources that are free for people if they can't afford that. And so, the difference in listening to podcasts or listening to another person's experience is, of course, it is a little more 2-dimensional. And for many people, that's all they need. Many people can listen to this stuff and take it and run with it. And then what coaching or therapy offers, or jumping in and actually being in the hot seat or being in the Power of Witness group is that third dimension where you are able to personalize it with a coach or a therapist. And then certainly in the Power of Witness group, having that extra support of this group going through a really vulnerable thing all together. There's this whole extra power in the MeWe group, which we'll mention. This group, all of my groups have access to a MeWe group that I facilitate, where we share resources. After each episode, people can ask questions, they can follow up and thank people for the feedback. And we did have that for this group that you're going to hear. You listeners will unfortunately not be able to have access to that, because that is the one piece of it that stayed kind of private. But it is that adds that third dimension. But it is really important for us to know that we really believe, and you all can get lots of benefit from this, even if you don't have the resources to join it for yourself.
Yeah. And a couple other, and
real
thank
quick,
you.
I just want to mention that all of the resources are in the show notes. Don't forget that. So it's easy to go to our website and go look at all of them under the podcast tab. So just wanted to mention that, and then go ahead, Finn.
Yeah. And a couple other final technical sort of notes here before we jump in, because we know these are a little bit longer and this intro went a little bit long, but we thought it was really important to lay out the framework. So a few things. For one, you'll notice that these episodes are a little bit longer than our normal episodes. This one is going to be probably close to 2 hours because of this intro and the actual content was about 90 minutes. And then from here on out, they're all roughly about 90 minutes. And we really did our best to not try to impose any like constraints on these. We wanted these to be what they are. And that came through as well in the editing. So normally when I edit an episode, I'll take out long pauses and breaks and stuff like that. I've left in a good majority of those because you're hearing people process stuff in real time. And I didn't want we didn't want anybody to lose like the impact of somebody taking 5 or 10 seconds to really think about something.
Right. And the emotion behind that.
Right.
The pauses are important.
So those get left in. So if you have a podcast player like Overcast or something that removes long pauses and breaks, I would recommend turning that feature off for these episodes. That's just my personal recommendation. You can do whatever you want.
I would also recommend not speeding these episodes up because it's more powerful when you hear people actually thinking through things.
And I just want to really quick give Finn a huge therapeutic high five. He didn't tell me he was going to do that. And we had never discussed how important and therapeutic pauses are. And most lay people who are not therapists get all uncomfortable with those pauses. Finn, you're blowing my mind. Like, I love that you saw the therapeutic value of that without me even coaching you on that. Wow. Impressed.
You know, every once in a while I pull something out of my...
I think going through the process and listening made it very obvious.
Good.
The other one is just sort of a note on audio quality. So this is like 6 different people or groups calling in from all over the country. And we did our absolute best to get the best sound quality we could. I would say that it is audible in all cases. There are times where it's a little muffled or somebody talks over somebody and there's some it is really good considering what we put together. And so
just have a little patience with us on that.
Yeah. And so let us know, I guess, what you think on that. But we did our best, and just a huge thank you again to everybody who came out to do this. Again, these aren't all professional podcasters who have tons of audio equipment. So people were laying in bed and crying and all sorts of things. So it is like Catherine said, this is the real shit. This isn't really just staged.
One last thing I want to say is, please, if you commit to listening to this, make sure you listen to the last episode. You're going to hear me talk about that on the last episode, but it's so often that, in my opinion, in our society, we rush to the next thing. We don't pause and transition. We don't take time to conclude. And the 3 of us talked after the conclusion one, and we all agreed that it would really be sad if you missed that one. So if we've got you here, please stick in and listen to the last one. There is more value in it than you would assume there would be. Even though there's not somebody on the hot seat, hearing the takeaways and the reflection, it just wraps it up so beautifully. So please hang in.
And I have one last really quick thing to mention.
They're never going to get to the episode.
I know. But I just want to say that this series is focused on couples. However, Catherine, you've mentioned that you are going to be doing individual Power of Witness. You're going to try that in March too. So just keep that in mind. And as you listen to this, that you're going to be offering different versions of Power of Witness as well.
Yes. And the other thing we'll mention is we put it out to couples that have been on Normalizing Non-Monogamy. We did not have a preference about them being heteronormative couples, married couples, how long they've been together. I don't even think we necessarily said couples. It was just couples that reached out to us. And so this is the group that formed naturally. And we are certainly not closed to the idea of having different types of those groups in the future. And yes, we did have some people reach out actually within this group and say, it would be kind of interesting to do this just on my own. So I'm going to be offering a men's Power of Witness individual and a women's Power of Witness individual. And of course, that's identifying as men and identifying as women, whatever that means to you, to see it will be certainly a different experience, but I think equally as powerful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think we should maybe let them listen to it now?
Yeah, now that it's been like 20 minutes.
Thank you. Well, thank you to everybody for listening to this intro. I think just based on how difficult and how moving some of this stuff is, we felt it was important to really lay a solid foundation for it. So
yes.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy this, and we'll see you in a quick outro, and then it's time to rock and roll.
It's time to rock and roll. Welcome, everyone, to The Power of Witness. We're super excited to be collaborating with Catherine on this project and can't believe that you all agreed to be here. We're so excited.
Yeah, thank you all. Heartfelt thank you to all 8 of you for taking the time out of this kind of crazy time of the year. And just, it's going to be vulnerable and difficult. And we just wanted to say a huge thank you for supporting the work we're doing and the work Catherine does.
And making this a priority.
And helping other people. We know it's going to be very, very useful. So just thank you. Thank you.
And we wanted to start by just going around and doing quick introductions. And I think we should start with Catherine.
Okay. So my name is Catherine. I am a therapist and coach and have been for over 15 years. My business is Expansive Connection Coaching. And this idea of putting people on the hot seat and being witnessed and being witnesses is something that's really near and dear to my heart. An idea that I had a few months ago and set into motion, and have been blown away with the momentum of what's happened when people will step in the ring and be vulnerable like this. And so to be able to extend the work that Emma and Finn are doing and have some of their guests come back and be willing to jump in the ring with me and go a little deeper in their the sharing of themselves is pretty legendary to me and exciting. So I'm really happy to be here.
So I have been non-monogamous officially for 5 years. My husband and I had a short experience in this before we got married. And then I thought we had to get married and grow up and put it on the shelf. And then 10 years later, stumbled back into this part of our life, which was wonderful. And so we started with probably what we would traditionally call swinging, always together. And then it sort of morphed into couples dating. We've certainly been to clubs and been on cruises and gone to parties and had the more sexually focused experiences. But we always found that we really enjoyed having more of a relational connection with people. And so that turned into couples dating, which we have enjoyed. And then we've also had separate sexual play, as well as in the last year or so started to experiment with more separate relational experiences. And I am going to have a secondary relationship that I'm committed to. And we have some friends with benefits that we enjoy having a good relational connection as well as a sexual connection with other partners. So we've run the gamut, working through growing. I'd say that we always are looking to stay on our growth edge. And when we first got into this, our growth edge was much more focused on our sexuality because we got together very young. And so that's how we continue to grow and push each other, is to explore our sexuality. And then as we've moved through it, we have found that our growth edge tends to be more relational, starting together and now doing some big growing in the realm of dating separately. So that's our story.
Awesome. Well, thank you, as always, Catherine, for everything. You've been on the show more than anybody other than Emma and me. So thank you as always for everything you do for the community and your work. Next, we'll kick it over to our tonight's hot seat, Bill and Felice. They were on episodes 42 and 130.
Hi. We're Felice and Bill, and we've been a couple for 37 years, married for 35. We started out swinging, and it probably evolved. So now at this point, it's more combination, sort of swinging and poly. We date separately. I probably have more deep relationships than Felice does, but we have a number of separate friends, and we occasionally get together and do more swinging things.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, for sure. Next up, we'll head over to David and Amanda. Thank you both for being here. Episode 53, so some of the waybacks.
Earlier on.
I'm David.
I'm Amanda.
And we have been partners for 6 years.
36.
Well,
6
6 or
years.
36, depending on you count it. We work together. We're together pretty much 24 hours a day. And we have been open since we met. We call it Open Together.
Open together.
Which has meant that we've explored a variety of different sort of, I would say, swinging scenarios, kink, BDSM.
We're really when in Rome people. We'll try anything twice.
The range of ethical non-monogamy is something that has interested us in a lot of ways, and really we kind of connected around a common interest in human sexuality and ethical non-monogamy, and so we seem to do most things together at this point. Although we both have, I guess, dated independently, and at times enjoy that as well.
Awesome.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. And then we have Jack and Jill, and they were on episode 97. And then our Focus Friday is episode 1.7.
Hi, we're Jill and Jack, and we've been married for 19 years and have been non-monogamous for about 2 years. Our first foray into the lifestyle was at Desire down in Mexico, and that was amazing. And I would say we identify as swingers. We like to experience this together at this point, and we like to do things together. Not much on labels. We're open to where the connections take us in that. Jill?
Sounds about right.
Perfect.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you both for being here. We'll jump over to last but definitely not least, Laura and Casey.
You're on episode 105.
Hey, this is Laura.
I'm Casey.
We have been together for about 20 years and married for close to 12. We started the non-monogamy journey about 5 or 6 years ago. And from there, we started with swinging, and then we dabbled in opening up, and then now we are monogamous.
Because of COVID.
Well,
Mostly.
because of COVID and emotional stuff.
Which we're going to hear all about, right?
Of course. I mean, that's why we're here, right?
Yep.
Awesome.
Well, thank you everyone for... Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no. I just was saying that's kind of where we are now.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. We really appreciate it. And we'll turn it over to Catherine. She's going to start talking about how to give feedback, so we can jump right in.
All right. So the first thing that I want to make sure that everybody understands is how to give appropriate feedback. And I want to teach you this because it's vital to making this process of witnessing each other and being witnessed as effective as I think it can be. But I also love to teach this because as you practice giving appropriate feedback to the couple that has been on the hot seat, when you have been on the hot seat and you hear appropriate feedback, these skills are skills that you can use with each other, within your couple, with other partnerships that you have. Honestly, this works really well with children, with parents, with coworkers. It's a really solid skill to have. So it's something that I feel really passionate about teaching right away, because it's a skill you can use right away and vitally important to this process that this journey I'm asking you to go on with me. All right. So we're going to start with what not to do, and then I'm going to tell you what you should do. All right. First thing we want you to not do is give advice. So I remember when because went to grad school for counseling, people are always saying, well, give me advice. Tell us what we're supposed to do. And when I started grad school, they said, what we will do in the next 2 years is beat out the idea of giving advice. That's not what your clients want. If you give advice to someone and it goes really well, they don't get to take the benefit and the great feeling of doing something well, because they didn't decide. It was your idea. If you give them advice and it goes really poorly, they don't have to take any responsibility for what they did because they can blame it on you. And so giving advice takes the locus of control away from the person. I never thought of it like that. So this is not the time to, after the couple has been on the hot seat, this is not where we give advice and tell them what they should have done. So no, like, I would have done it like blah, 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 or maybe you should have said blah, blah, blah. Now, the hot seat couple may want some advice. They may say, does anybody have a great tip for how to better approach a couple at Desire? We have a MeWe group, an online group for us. That's a great place where the hot seat couple can write and say, can you give me advice on this? The difference is now it is solicited. That's how we want advice. Nobody wants unsolicited advice or unsolicited dick pics. But anyway, we want advice to be solicited. So if you all would like advice from each other, please feel free to do that and ask for it specifically. And even the more specifically you ask for advice, the better chance it is that you will only get advice on what you've asked about instead of opening it up like you want advice on everything. What else I want you to not do is judge. Of course, this is a bit preaching to the choir here. Everybody's got their own way of doing this, and Infin have done a great job putting this in front of us every week, reminding us that everyone does this differently. So don't yuck anybody's yum. Avoid judgment. And then also I want you to avoid platitudes or what I call well, at least. So platitudes like, oh, you guys are a great couple. You're going to be fine. It doesn't make me feel seen or heard at all if I hear that. Like, did you hear what we were just fighting about? It's lovely to say something like, wow, your connection is really strong. And I noticed the strength of it by X, Y, and Z with something specific, but just a platitude like, you guys are a great couple, so you'll be fine. That's not how we're wanting to show up in this feedback. Well, at least he told you he cheated and you didn't have to find out. The well, at least thing. I feel like when we do that, we take away from a person's pain when we try to give them the bright side to look at. So the other thing we don't want to start a sentence with is, well, look on the bright side and fill in the blank. So when we give any of these messages of advice or what I would have done, when we judge someone, when we give them platitudes or well, at least, these messages can feel very dismissive, especially after someone has been really vulnerable. And so the way that they can sound dismissive is that they can have an underlying message, something like this. Your struggle made me uncomfortable. Try this so I can feel better. Another one might be, you're broken and I know better. Another one, hurry up and do better. Again, because I'm uncomfortable. Or, I don't want to have to sit in the suck with you. It makes me uncomfortable. So can you feel better sooner? When we give advice, we tell them what they should have done. When we judge and give platitudes, these are the messages we're giving. After someone's been vulnerable, that is not what they want to hear. So how do we approach people who have been vulnerable in a way that lets them know that they have been seen, they have been heard, they have been understood, and they're loved anyway, which I always like to remind people that's, if we distill it down, that's what most all of us humans want. It motivates so much of our behavior. We want to be seen, heard, understood, and loved anyway. So here our hot seat couple is going to go and put themselves out there. What can we do as their witnesses to make sure they feel seen and heard and understood and loved anyway? We are going to express our feelings genuinely when it's your turn to give feedback. The expression of emotion has far greater value than the expression of ideas or information. Again, we have an online community where we can share those ideas and information, but after someone has been vulnerable, the power of you sharing your emotions and how you feel it's hard to quantify. It's so powerful. Try to take the risk and let yourself be emotionally available and vulnerable as you share what impact their story had on you. Try to be clear and direct as possible when you give feedback. Try to be open to the responses of how other people have said things. So even if it's different, just roll with that and share your own experience. Sometimes telling a story is a way of being known. It can be a default where we want to say, that reminds me of a time when X, Y, and Z. And oftentimes stories can be connective, but in this setting, they tend to come off as a way to avoid dialogue and intimacy. It can be a way to take the attention away from the couple that has been on the hot seat. So aiming for sharing that fosters understanding of the experience instead of just a monologuing kind of story. You want to share how you were impacted by what they shared and processed. You want to keep your feedback focused on you. So here's an example. Hearing Jim say that he didn't feel heard hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized that's my biggest fear for my partner. I worry that he doesn't feel heard by me either. Okay. So we're talking about Jim being on the hot seat, but this person is giving feedback about how hearing what Jim said struck a chord. Another one. Wow, Sally, when you admitted that you felt abandoned during the hotel party, it put words to the feeling that I had last weekend. Thank you for sharing that. You also want to try to be as specific as possible. We all, as humans, we're suckers for specificity because it shows that you saw me, heard me, understand me, and love me anyway. Not that you see and hear and understand people in general, but there's something in your feedback that's so specific and unique to me that it's impossible for me to overlook that you saw, heard, and understood me. Specificity. Also, I'll give you a little tip. When you give people compliments, the more specific and unique they are to that person, the better they land. So this is one that you can practice in your feedback, but also practicing the specificity can be really helpful as you're flirting and dating. All right. And then finally, you always want to end your feedback after when you're giving them feedback after they've been on the hot seat by thanking them for what they shared and thanking them for being vulnerable. Make space with your words to acknowledge the hard work that they just did. Okay. Another way that I'll describe it is, we talk a lot in this process about me inviting all of you to the top row of the bleachers, where you get to watch a couple down in their play. And by play, I mean the emotional struggle that they might be having. So another thing is, if you're struggling about what to give feedback for, if you imagine yourself up on the top row of the bleachers watching, is there something that you learned about relationships in general, about your own relationship, from being able to see it at the top row of the bleachers? That can be a nice lead in for feedback if you're feeling a little nervous about what to say. Any questions, thoughts, comments, as you've learned some ideas about how to give more appropriate feedback?
I will just throw one out there that maybe all of us should be kind to ourselves, that if this is new to us and we haven't done this before, that we probably will make mistakes and we'll do our best to get there, but we have to be patient with ourselves and patient with each other. So I just wanted to offer that out there ahead of time.
It's a wonderful point.
It is a wonderful point. And I promise I'll be nice. If you give advice, then I might say something like, okay, that sounds like a great discussion for us to put in MeWe. Bill, can you tell me a little bit more about how it sat with you? Like, that's probably how I'll say it. So I try not to be too harsh. I won't let you wiggle out of it, but I will wiggle you back to where we need to be in a kind way. That's what I promise to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions about giving feedback? All right. Well, let's jump in. We're going to do some icebreaker explanation. So this is an interesting group to start, because all of you have been brave enough. All of us, I should say. Emma and Finn, I've been on there and told my story. All of us have put our stories out to the people that are going to be listening to us. And so I didn't want us to do just typical, here's who we are, blah, blah, blah. I wanted it to be something that I was pretty darn sure you had not covered in the podcast. So in the two questions that I'm going to ask you, the first one is very much in the spirit of the kind of disclosure and vulnerability that we're looking for in this group. So I'm going to ask you to share, each of you, not as a couple collectively, but each of you, to share the best and worst moment for your relationship since you've been in non-monogamy. I want you to keep this focused on your relationship, not on a hilarious horror story or some super sexy snapshot with others. Those are lovely, but I want it to really be specific about you. So I'm going to go first to give an example. First, let me give the example of what I don't want you to say. So what not to do would be if I said, our best moment was that steamy side-by-side parallel play at the Cabana in Desire with that couple from Chicago. that was a fantastic moment in our non-monogamous journey. But that's not really what we're looking for here. The worst one, I might say, oh, it was that time when that couple showed up for the date in sweatpants and they talked about their stockpile to prepare for an alien invasion the whole time. Yeah, that was not a great moment, but that's not what we're going for here. So this is more the flavor I'm looking for. For me, the best moment in our non-monogamous relationship so far is feeling my husband, my partner's true happiness to see me happy. That has been happening since I've been growing in intimacy with another partner of mine. And I keep being scared that it's going to be too much, that it's not allowed, that I'm not supposed to love this other person, or it's not okay for me to be loved by two people. And every time I go back to him, he just gets happier and happier for my happiness. That is an amazing feeling of validation to have another human be that happy for me. And it's such a great best moment in our relationship because I see it as a testament to the hard work we've done on ourselves and our relationship to make it strong enough for me to introduce this deeper level of intimacy with someone else, and for it to not feel like a threat to our attachment. That's been the best moment for me so far. The worst moment is years ago when I felt really insecure and I not only didn't encourage him, but discouraged him to have the type of connection he wanted to have with a play partner of ours. And I knew that he wanted it, but I was just so scared and threatened by it, which I will say, though, was the catalyst that started the work that we have done to make my best moment possible. So that's the best, worst kind of example of that I'd like to hear. What have been the best and worst moments for you personally in your relationship since non-monogamy? And then the second one's fun. If you two were going to be stuck on a deserted island, but had all of the essentials you needed for your personal well-being, what 3 things would you bring to best serve your relationship while you're stuck on the deserted island? All right. Each couple is going to have 8 minutes to answer both of those questions. I'm going to start my timer and I'll give you a warning. And then after each couple goes, the rest of us will practice giving feedback about what we heard. So we all get a chance to practice this feedback thing. So shall we go in maybe order of how the hot seats are going to be? All right. Well, Bill and Felice, you are up first, and then we will have Jack and Jill.
So my personal best is seeing Bill blossom sexually and to see him find different parts of himself, the being dominant and just starting to feel confident in his sexuality. That's been the best. And the worst, the worst is kind of got a silver lining. So, is that I had fallen in love with somebody, but Bill was okay with it. And, but that turned, the guy broke up with me. So that was kind of sad and everything, but it was a silver lining in that Bill and I were okay with somebody else falling in love with somebody else. I guess my worst moment is just, I like parties and Bill doesn't, and kind of going to a party and leaving him, letting him just say, I got to do this. And he's very uncomfortable. And I don't think that was a positive kind of moment for us. Your turn.
Thanks for sharing that, Felice.
Mm-hmm. So I think the best moment for us, or the best thing, was kind of the relationship we built with our girlfriend. It's both of us together. There's definite love, and it's definitely just a wonderful addition to our lives. It's being open to it and being able to build and grow that relationship has been just something marvelous to see. And I think also being open to love, and love with more than one person. I guess the worst moment for me was kind of in the wake of that breakup that Felice talked about. She came back from a vacation with them where the breakup happened, and she was just distraught and torn up, and just, she hurt for a long time. And I hated seeing her that way. I hated seeing the way that he made her feel. And I think part of her never completely healed from that. And so she kind of closed off a little bit of herself to falling in love again with somebody else. And that kind of hurts me, actually. Now for the fun one.
Oh, the fun one? Oh, the fun one. I'd say, I can't think of a third, but I'd say my meds, music, and a good Wi-Fi. I don't know.
And is there anything that's specific about those that you can tell us how that serves your relationship, those things, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, I'm bipolar, so my meds are important. One of the, so to keep me level and keep me functioning correctly, I need my meds. So that's definitely, I hope that may not be essential, or that may not be in the part of the essential stuff, but for me,
I think that's lovely though, because it would be part of your personal essentials, but I think that you bringing it into how it serves your relationship is really beautiful.
Oh yeah, because it's important. It's very important for me to be stable and rational, and that's important. And then music I'm as a dancer all my life, so music's very important to me. Even today, it's just, I have to have music on to think, to do my work, to do anything. I have to have music. I'm a happier person when I'm listening to good music. I think Bill enjoys music too. So our musical, connection is cool. We talk a lot about different types of music. I bring home new music. He brings new music. It's a real...
We have sex music.
We have sex music. I used it the other day when I had a friend over, and they said, "That's a good playlist." I said, "Bill made it."
And your third one was Wi-Fi. So how does that serve your?
You got to have the music and keep in touch with people. I don't know. That was just, I pulled that one out of mine.
Love it. How about for you,
Bill? So for me, I'll just say this was so hard. I just don't see things in the relationship. So I thought of things like, okay, well, I could really use some exercise equipment, because the way I keep myself balanced and even is to work out. And if I don't work out, I'm a dick. I mean, just
beautiful. I love it.
So I need, I need that. I could probably put all three of them as exercise equipment. I thought about a good sex toy, because it's fun. That's fun to incorporate in things.
Absolutely. Great.
And then after that, I just run out of good ideas. I'm not a thing kind of person as part of the relationship.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
But not as fun as you thought it would be. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Basically, though, that means that anybody else, we have one extra thing you get to bring on the island, because Bill didn't take it. So somebody gets 4. So if you're having trouble narrowing it down, you can thank Bill for the gift.
I'll accept payment.
Okay. All right, great. All right. So now, thank you both for sharing. So now I'm going to ask everyone else to give feedback about what Bill and Felice shared. As you can imagine, the beginning part of what they shared is probably more vulnerable for them. So that's where I'd put most of your feedback. But if it's, if you want to make a comment about their desert island, then please feel free. Who would like to start?
This is Jack here. I'll go first. I love what I loved hearing in both of you talk is your connection. And it's so countercultural. It's so against what most of us have been taught, I would say. And I love seeing the connection that you two have, and how that doesn't mean that there's just love enough between you two, but it's infinite. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in on what Jack has to say on that is the example you give of the infinity of love, that there isn't some bucket that runs out and it needs to be hoarded or kept. It multiplies as you give it. I love seeing that in both of you. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. All right. Who else would like to go ahead and do their feedback?
We're happy to provide some just thanks for the love that we could feel between the two of you as you spoke, and the way that you take care of each other just really came through and whether it was in packing or in remembering those good times and those challenging times, you could really feel it. So thank you.
I would echo that.
Okay. Thank you, David and Amanda.
Well, Bill, this is Laura. What really hit home for me, Bill, is when you were expressing how when she came home from that trip and you could really feel her pain that really didn't have anything to do with you personally, and how that really hurt, and that you really wanted to help her, was just such a touching story. So I know it's a negative, but that just really hit home for me. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, I want to mimic what everybody else is saying. Is I know that the podcast people listening can't see it, but to see the way the Felice really looks at you, Bill, you can just see that connection when you guys are sharing these these stories. That it just made me smile, because that's just that's what we're all here to strive for. And it also made me really scared and nervous, because the feelings that you guys have been able to work through really scare me. So that's where my mind's at right now, is holy cow, that's a lot of work. That's where I want to get to, but to see where I'm at, it seems really daunting.
Wow. And thank you, Casey, for that vulnerability that you showed in your feedback. That was lovely. Thank you.
We'll chime in too. So I just wanted to echo as well. Thank you for showing the love. Like, the love between both of you was very obvious. And what has already been said, the hurt that you felt, Bill, for your partner, for Felice, was very evident. And I just want to thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being vulnerable.
Yeah, I was going to build on Casey's fear piece, that I hadn't even really thought of it until Bill was talking about it, that as Emma and I have started to think about having deeper connections, we typically had looked at this as more a swinging approach until, the last year or two, where we've opened ourselves up to that. And then thinking about, you tend to sometimes think about yourself like, oh, I don't want to get hurt. But now thinking about, well, if Emma falls for somebody and then she gets hurt, like hearing Bill talk about like Felice coming home and like she's in pain, she's hurting, and there's nothing he can do other than be there for her. And that's like my worst nightmare, is not being able to fix something immediately. So yeah, I'm having second thoughts on this whole situation. Not really, but I think I hadn't even thought about like that feeling of helplessness. So thank you, Bill.
Oh, Ben, that was so sweet. And I also just wanted to say similarly, Bill, I went through in one of the roller coasters I've gone through with the person that I'm dating. My husband really was just there for me as I was hurting. And I remember feeling guilty for taking my pain to him. And he said, why would you not? This is a chance for me to love and support you, whether you're happy or you're sad. And then I was like doing what Felice is doing over here, wiping her eyes, like, oh my God, how does he love me so much? So, yes, that really struck me, Bill and Felice, to see your emotions so clearly as Bill was talking about his love for you. That was really beautiful. And great job to all of you for first time feedback. It is great. So Bill and Felice, I'm going to send it back to you for just a second. And I want you to share with us how it felt to be on or how it felt to hear this feedback.
It's very touching. And I'm kind of a person that wants to erase the past and move forward, but it kind of took me back to that spot again. But Bill, it's so weird to have your husband defend you for falling in love with another man. And that was the silver lining of all of it, even though I couldn't see it at the time. But coming out of it and just being there, and realizing that I could love more than one person at a time, and Bill was okay with it, was a huge step forward. I mean, it was great. I mean, there was so much positivity that came out of that negativity, like twofold.
Yeah.
But it's nice to hear that. I'm still scared. So somebody mentioned that they were scared, and I really try hard not to fall in love anymore. And Bill hates that I can't.
That you're limited.
That I'm limiting myself to that because it's still kind of raw. But yeah, it's nice to hear. And I don't want to scare anybody by that, because you can learn a lot from falling in love with somebody, even if it's, and Dan Savage always says, even short-term relationships can be successful.
Yes. I love that
can
from
be
your
a
podcast.
successful thing.
Bill, what was it like for you to hear the feedback on what you shared?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really appreciative that, people connected with hearing that. I mean, listening to Casey talk about, being scared, I understand that. I mean, it's kind of a scary thing, and I'm kind of one of these people that jumps in with both feet, which is probably why I'm here tonight.
I'd say so. All right. Well, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, and so it's just, I'm just, and I'm appreciative for the experience. I mean, the life experience that I've got, both good and bad, has been fantastic. And
but the feedback was really nice, and
it was.
And
I feel appreciated.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. You guys are
very heard.
We're very much in love with each other, and and that showed, I guess, and I like that it showed.
Good. Yes. Okay, good. So that was a great first try at practicing this. Good work, you guys. All right. So let's see. Jack and Jill, are you ready to jump on your mini hot seat?
You bet.
All right. So remember, you're sharing what your best and worst, and then what you're bringing on the island.
Absolutely. I would say my best is as Catherine knows in some of her previous work, I would tend toward being the gas in the relationship. And I'm learning how to coast, and when I need to, and learning that balance of coasting and pushing the limit a bit, hitting the gas, feathering the gas at times. And I also love the compersion of what this journey has to offer us. One of my whys of the lifestyle is the seeing Jill in her element being at play, and I love that. And I would say the worst for me has been when I've just not been aware, because of being in my own head or just where I'm at in life, of where Jill is at, and just running over her feelings and what she needs to thrive. So what I'm bringing to the island is bourbon. I'm also bringing beach beds, because that hot sex on cabana beds in Mexico, yeah, that's kind of a thing.
Way better than on the sand. I mean, it sounds sexy, but it's just no good for anybody.
Right. Yeah.
Like it. Okay.
Yeah. And it doesn't work well in a wetsuit. So anyways, and then also I'm going to add some bumper plates, because I love Olympic lifting. I'm going to add that to Bill's workout apparatus, because if I can't snatch it, I'll just jerk it. So I love it.
Oh, wow. All right. Going for it. All right, Jill.
Okay, it's my turn. So I'm going to start with the worst feeling in the last couple of years for me has been not using my voice for what I want or need, and then having the evening derailed by resentment and anger. And it just kind of, it's like a snowstorm takes over the evening, and I end up with deleting or derailing the enjoyment that the evening could have had. So that leads right into my best moment, and that is finding the power of using my voice to ask for what I need and want, which has helped me break the cycle of codependency. And in that, for Jack, like when I don't use my voice, seeing the disappointment and like the confusion, and then the on the opposite side where I do use it, and the delight both of us find in watching me grow that way, but just in the way it brings us together. And for the island, coconut oil, because that keeps all things in relationship well lubricated. I'm going to bring a few friends, and I'm going to bring a few books, because I just need some time away from everybody with a book.
I love it. And any particular type of friends, like what do they need to do to help serve your relationship?
Be really funny. Then you have a great sense of humor.
Maybe have some benefits.
Of course.
Jack's like, can I weigh in on your island? All right, great. Thank you. And I will share that I have worked, and they have given me permission to tell you this, that I have worked with Jack and Jill privately. And I will say, just right off the bat, it has been such an absolute joy to watch what both of you shared in your wins and your struggles. It's been just such an absolute honor to watch the growth that you both have taken from your best moments and your hard moments. So that's the feedback I'd like to give. Who'd like to go next?
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we can go.
So this is Laura and Casey.
Oh yeah, sorry. Are we doing feedback?
Yep.
Yes.
It was interesting to hear how, Jack, you feel like you're the gas all the time. I feel like I'm the brake all the time. So hearing somebody being concerned about the same thing I am kind of struck home for me, and just brings up a lot of the moments that we encountered throughout this whole exploration. And thank you for sharing that.
And Laura, I really appreciated, Jill, when you were talking about using your voice, except kind of in another way, because I feel like I am always using my voice, and maybe I'm using my voice over Casey. So I need to maybe be doing some listening also. So thank you for sharing that. It just kind of feels the opposite. I'm definitely the gas Jack, and also maybe too loud. So I need to be doing some listening. Thank you.
And again, thank you for your vulnerability in the feedback you gave. Who's next?
So when I was listening to Jill talk about not using,
and this is Bill and Felice. They're going to go next.
When I listened to Jill talk about not using her voice, I could really feel the pain in that, and it brought home some of the same sort of issues in terms of using my voice, and I could really feel a lot of compassion for that sense, and and the struggle that it is.
Yes, and I really related to Jack in that the sometimes you're so excited about things and you want to go that you fail to listen to your partner sometimes, or you're just go. And I always have to think about Bill first, and I think that is what he was trying to say, and that was very thought provoking.
Great, thank you for sharing so specifically the way that it connects you to the lessons that you're both working on. Thank you. All right, let's see, David and Amanda, or you're next. Okay.
Yes, as you said, David and Amanda, and you know, for me, Jill, hearing you talk about using the power of your voice, it came through for me exceptionally hopeful in the fact that I guess I kind of feel like I'm on the front end aspect of realizing how important using your voice is, both for yourself and for your partner. And then you noticed she said that the confusion that came from not using her voice, and you could really hear kind of the responsibility and seeing the effects, I guess, of having that confidence to use it. And so, I that sounded hopeful to me, and that sounded really exciting. And Jack, to hear you talk about conversions is just a fascinating idea, and so it was good to hear other people talking about recognizing that and seeing it happen. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add, Jill, I felt as you were describing what it sounded like, your perception of Jack's frustration or even potential hurt in your not using your voice at times was something that just really resonated, and felt like just that the complexity is something that we feel like is really nice to hear you put your voice to it. That was helpful. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that.
Great specificity. Thank you, David and Amanda. All right, and then Finn?
Do you want to go first? For me, I really related, Jill, when you said the piece I picked up on was that you're identifying your wants and needs. That's something that I have been working on for a while, and I realize the importance of, but I also know that I'm not very good at it. And hearing you say that and then turning it into the best thing was finding the power of your voice was very hopeful, because I feel like I'm on that journey too. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And the reason I deferred to Emma go first is I knew what she was going to say, and I knew it was going to feed exactly into what I wanted to say, which is, and it gives the context that her finding her voice and me really relating to Jack and the being the gas, but in the way that I only want to push the gas pedal if I know Emma wants to be in the car. And hearing her really tell me, I want to go do this, or this has always been a critical part. And tying this back to what Jill said of, getting angry and it ruining what were supposed to be super exciting, magical evenings, that these are all just so interlinked. And like, we would be in the car to a play, an event, and being like, well, what are you excited about? And her not knowing, and then me getting frustrated, and then me ruining the evening because I'm frustrated because she doesn't know what she wants. And like everything you said was basically us. And that really hit home. And I just appreciate knowing that we're not alone, and then letting you know that you're not alone. So
thank you.
That was great. I also want to give
wow. Thank you all for that. I feel seen
and validated. Yeah. Thank you all for the amazing feedback. The best part in all of this is we're all human and we're all so alike. And yet we isolate and we go, but I'm the only one. No, we're not. And this is what this is so awesome for. Thank you all.
I also want to share something that Jack and Jill and I have talked about many times that seems counterintuitive at first, but this idea that every no you give me is a gift so that I can believe your yes. Yeah.
Yes.
You have been nailing that, Jill. Yeah. All right. Great. Thank you so much. Let's see. Next we will have, it would be David and Amanda. You all will be next.
We're up. Well, I think one of the reasons that Jack and Jill resonated so much for us is that there are some common themes. I think for me, the experience as I said, our relationship has been, open since we met, and we've really explored together. And as Amanda has felt, I think, safer, or there have been times when that exploration has just brought, I think, just new pleasures and enjoyments as a person, and seeing that really has made me feel kind of floaty. So that is great, is really a wonderful thing. And the negative is that
just that when when feelings of insecurity or jealousy kick in, that if I don't give voice to that can go to a negative place. And so I've found that sort of embracing it and talking it out has been better for us. I don't know.
3 things.
3 things. Well, I felt like the essentials were covered. So we were going to leave our recreational marijuana in the essentials. So we were going to bring, I was thinking like an Enjoy Pure Wand, because it's flexible, and probably some chocolate. We really like chocolate. And we'll need some massage candles if we're going to be stuck on the island for a long time.
Sounds like a lot of good service to your relationship. Love it. All right, Amanda, can you share for us?
So, the best for me has been the kind of, I guess, the idea of compersion has, that's always kind of been just, I guess, an innate thing inside of me, but I've always thought that was what, broke me, right? That was what just didn't make, it made me different, right? And so seeing, somebody who can be jealous come and work through those feelings and have the ability and the confidence and everything to override, which is, jealousy, which is just bad for everybody. So that has been the best part.
Hold on, just say it. Let me make sure I'm clarifying this. So you're saying that compersion comes really naturally to you, and for you, the best moment has been to see how hard David works to overcome jealousy, to try to get to compersion, which maybe doesn't come as naturally to him. Am I hearing that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, just making sure.
And just being able to just see that, it is a process that can happen, that, somebody kind of has to go through that whole thing and recognize it and kind of sit through it and then work through it and kind of come out on the other side, and being able to give that to my partner is just amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And how about the hard part for you? Worst part?
And then the hard part is, kind of speaking to, what we've kind of heard before too, is I have argued that we have been fighting to give women a voice for so long that we forgot to teach them how to speak up. And, that is me. And so have it, not having the confidence, or just having, even really kind of just the knowledge to put the words to kind of my wants, needs, and desires in order to, as I was saying, bring my part of, as Dan Savage, good, giving, and game, for me to be that good, giving, and game partner, I need to be able to do my part, and part of that is speaking it. And so that has been hard for me. My 3 things would be the magic wand, and some noise canceling headphones.
Sensory deprivation.
Yes.
Yes, and and the Enjoy. I guess we molded together because we both need that ability.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. I'll go first with feedback. Amanda, I especially resonated with that part. Well, resonated and how do I say it? I guess I just really noticed how in the best part, you put something in the best part that I think is really difficult for me. And I see it a lot in my clients, which is the sitting back and knowing that you just have to let your partner process it, that you can't rush it. It's got to be at his pace, and that it's just a process, and the only way through it is through it. And you mention that in your good part. And I'm like, that's the hard part. That would be my hard part. And so it just really struck me that you were able to put that patience and that allowance of him to have his own pace in your good. Like, wow, that really struck me. Thank you both. All right. Who else wants to jump in with some feedback?
Okay. This is Jack. I can go. So what I loved, or when Amanda, when you talked about, or David and Amanda, when you talked about compersion and jealousy, and what it brought up for me was, and then also having, working for having the woman have a voice. We come from a culture, and spoiler alert, you're probably going to hear more about this in our episodes, or if you listen to the past, we came from a very patriarchal culture, and I've made some hard choices in doing things to give Jill a voice, and women in large a voice. I feel that way. But what I see is I've been so misguided through the years of trying to make them into versions of me. And just, that's what it brought up for me. And just, it's such a counterintuitive journey to be a part of assisting women having voices, but they're not going to be the version that I think. They're going to be the version of them. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I'll just quickly speak up here also. I'm Jill. And just the part of, fighting for the voice, but forgetting to teach how to speak up. So that was great. I resonated with that too.
All right. Thank you, Jack and Jill. Bill and Felice, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I like the discussion or the compersion, because I think Bill and I kind of fell into it without realizing we were doing it. But I think it's so fantastic that Amanda already came to the relationship with compersion. That's huge. I think you probably have a lot of security, and I admire that because I think you have to have that sense of self. So I applaud you on that. That's really great.
Really good point, Felice. Yeah.
I really loved hearing Amanda talk about the compersion, and I think what also stood out was just looking at it and being patient and seeing how it came out in David, and the joy of when it did, and feeling that joy was really something special to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you, Lauren, Casey.
Well, I feel like it's kind of been said already, but I also can hear when David, you were talking about jealousies and insecurities, and I just heard you really be vulnerable in that moment and say, that was something that you really had to work through, and I just appreciate you calling that out. Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to Amanda. Your best moment was something that your partner struggles with, but I mean, I don't know you very well, but I'm assuming you don't have any, or you don't have the same jealousy issues that a lot of us face, or those feelings. And from my standpoint, it seemed like even though that is something that comes easy to you, you were able to recognize, somebody else's real struggle with that and know how hard it is for them to deal with that. I think it's sometimes easy when something comes so easy to us just to blow off the other people's feelings because it's so hard for us to wrap our brain around. But I thought you were able to do that. And it really just, I don't know, it makes me just think about how someone is able to really think about somebody else in that way. So thank you. I don't know if that sounded I don't know if I put words to what's really in my head, but thank you.
It sounded great from here. And it also, I just want to point out that you both were like, well, it's already been said, but then you said it and said things in a very different and insightful way. So good job. Thank you. All right, Emma and Finn.
Do you want to go first this time?
Nope.
I can also relate to the compersion and jealousy conversation for sure. But the other thing I wanted to mention is, David, you'd said seeing the joy of seeing Amanda in her element is amazing. And I can really relate to that as well. There's been times in certain situations where I've seen Finn in a side of him that he doesn't show very often, and just complete difference from kind of the day-to-day personality that I see. But I know underneath he has a lot more to him, and certain situations can really bring that out. And it's just been really amazing to see. So I can relate to what you said. Thank you for doing that.
Guess we'll have to edit that out. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think, yeah, I mean, I know we've all said it here, but the sort of the disparity between Amanda's compersion and David's jealousy, that resonates hard over here. And that patience that you spoke about, needing the patience to wait and to, sit with David and work through that. Yeah, you're not alone. I think that's maybe the best way to put it. And it's exciting to see. And it's good to know that, again, you're not alone and we're not alone. So thank you.
All right. So David and Amanda, thank you all for giving feedback. David and Amanda, if you will just quickly share what it felt like to be witnessed and hear that feedback.
Well, yes, thank you for all of the feedback. It felt really good to hear others talk about, just jealousy and compersion, and know that I might have a different perspective that others haven't witnessed yet. That felt good.
It was good to hear that we're all feeling like we're hearing things that we all face. That feels affirming. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing with us. All right. So Lauren Casey, you ready to bring us up here at the end?
Oh, yeah, we're ready. Should I go first?
Sure.
Okay, so best in terms of non-monogamy bringing to our relationship is, I feel like it's almost like a forced excessive communication. Like, we can't just skim over things. We can't just surface level everything. Like, when it comes to non-monogamy, we really have to get into it. Like, we really have to get deep and really be in it. And I think that I actually enjoy that part a lot. Sorry, I'm a little emotional because since we're not really practicing non-monogamy, that's not really something we are forced to do anymore. So it's kind of a rough time for me. So I guess that would be a bad part. But I think the worst time that I was thinking of before I got cryy was just kind of being alone in it. If Casey was with somebody else and I wasn't able to get in touch with him, that was a really tough time for me, because in non-monogamy before, we were always doing stuff together. So in an alone time, that was kind of not awesome for me. So, and then on the island, I'm going to move to that because it's a little less cry-inducing. So on the island, I can't really think of anything. I would want a full community of other humans. That's what really fills my cup. So could that be on the island? Does it have to be a deserted island, or could it be an island full of other people that were related to me and wanted to be my friends? Not even friends with benefits, just my friends. That would be fine.
Okay, I'll grant.
And then that's all I really need.
Okay. You're I only want one, but it's a big ask.
It's a lot.
Granted, my dear, granted.
Yes.
Oh, thank you for sharing that and for getting so vulnerable. And also, I will say I really appreciate you owning your tears and emotion, because keep in mind, so many of we don't have people won't be able to see you. And so thank you for speaking your tears. And that's something I'll ask everybody to do so that our listeners can follow along. So thank you for being vulnerable enough to say something that gets you emotional, and then also for owning how emotional you were and sharing that with us. Casey, you want to share with us?
Yeah, so my best and worst moments, I mean, I'm a little more, I guess, specific, but they happened very, it was funny because of how close in succession they happened. One of my best moments was when Laura and I were driving back a road trip, and we just had this amazing level of connection that I think I'm constantly seeking and probably put too much of an emphasis on, but it was just the things we shared and the just zero judgment and really there and listening to each other. It was just a really powerful moment for me. And then so that happened, and maybe a few days later, we got into, some jealousy and argument. And so then to see, how close we are to that level of connection is really nice. But then to see also how far away we are from being able to kind of control and have power over our feelings, to be so great one moment and a shit show the next, was really eye-opening for me. Desert Island, I need a huge shop with as many tools and fun stuff inside of it as I can. So just one shop, but there's so many things inside of it. I think a Sibian, I think is how it's pronounced. I've always wanted one of those, but they're like kind of not really very logical to have and keep in a small house with kids. And then I was thinking in my head, it would be really cool if I had like a person vending machine where you could just kind of get a guy or a girl, maybe 2 or 3 or 14 of them, to out of this vending machine and join us for a little while. That would be fun.
I gotta say, and I'm not surprised, and I love that this crew wouldn't follow the rules. Okay, Catherine. So I see where you're going, but I'm gonna just break the rules and bring all my friends to the deserted island. Or I'm going to have a person vending machine. And I love the creativity for how much you want to break the rules and then how you will make that happen. Like, that's such a perfect metaphor for non-monogamous people. It's just so good. And then I also wanted to say to you, Casey, that your specificity, as you described your best moment, I felt like I was watching the two of you drive down a highway with the wind in your hair and the sun and in a convertible and singing the songs. It was like watching a movie of the two of you. And then I could really feel your pain in the swing of how you can feel the best of the best and then quickly can feel the worst of the worst, and how that swing sounds really painful to you. You didn't exactly say it that way, but I really felt like I could hear and resonate in the pain of the quick flip. Thank you both for sharing. Who else wants to give feedback?
We'll go first this time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Do you want to go first?
No, you go. I was getting my thoughts together.
So they may not recognize your voices, but that's Emma and Finn.
Fair point.
It's our show. They should know our voices. No, I'm just kidding. Fair. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I to echo Catherine on the flip, like, and just like that hit home. We've had that flip like in the same car ride, right? Like you're riding pretty, and then 4 minutes later you're in a fight and you're like, what the fuck happened? Like how yes. We were just happy and excited. So yeah, that hit home, and Laura like being spot on with the communication. And there are times in our lives where in our journey where we haven't really been doing the non-monogamy thing, and we see it, the communication shifts. And yeah, I think hearing that pain, was hard, but also like so relatable, because you're just frustrated and you're like, why can't we just communicate better? And you don't even necessarily think about the fact that it's tied in some way to this. But, putting that puzzle together is helpful. So thank you.
And I was actually going to say the same thing about the communication, because as you were saying that, Laura, I was just relating so much to what you're saying, because we have gone in and out of non-monogamy throughout our relationship. And there's been times that the times in not like while we're practicing non-monogamy, have other partners or meeting other friends, they can be hard and they can be emotional, but the communication is on a different level. And it makes me feel much closer to Finn than when we're not doing those things and we're still having experiences and living life, but we're not sharing that level of connection in that way. And it just adds a lot to our relationship. And as Finn said, it's noticeable when it's not there. So thank you so much for saying that and being vulnerable. And as Catherine said, like owning your emotion too, because that's not easy. And I appreciate that you were willing and vulnerable in doing that.
And I was just going to pile on one thing, and I know this breaks the feedback rules, Catherine. I apologize that we're not supposed to just tell people they're going to be all right. But I think the fact that you do have that communication during the non-monogamous time, the non-monogamous times, like when you're not doing that, like you don't just revert back to like totally shit communication. Like you are still probably communicating at a level that is elite. Yeah. So you're going to be all right. I'm not allowed to say that, but I said it anyway.
Oh, the platitude. No, but I will say actually one thing I want to jump in, because I'm the boss, so I get to jump in when I want, right? Is that, Laura, when you were saying that, it reminds me, I always talk about, like, for me, non-monogamy is this stone that I get to sharpen myself against. And the sharpening of myself is usually, then it leads to all this communication and this talking and this process. And what that stone is in non-monogamy changes. Sometimes it's about sexuality. Sometimes it's about intimacy. Sometimes it's about connecting. Sometimes it's about there's nobody that we're interested in, and it's just the two of us, and we aren't pursuing anything. And it brings up what's coming up, the feelings of why are we not engaged in it with anybody. So for me, I absolutely hear you about wanting that stone to sharpen yourself against, and that nugget of like being monogamous right now may be the stone that you're sharpening yourself against, right? Which is the still part of the whole journey. So anyway, thank you. Who else would like to give some feedback? I think Jack and Jill were gunning to go next.
Yeah. I'd love, this is Jill. Laura, I don't have much. I just want to say I feel you on your emotion, and thank you. Thank you for just going there and letting us feel that, because I don't know, it's bonding, and I just thank you for that.
Yeah, I'd echo that. This is Jack. I'm gonna break another rule, and I'm gonna thank you first for just showing up on a non-monogamy podcast when you're in a period of non-monogamy. I think it's just awesome. And what it brings up in me is we've went through periods too where we've taken a step back, where we haven't been, where we've got out, as it were. And I'm not going to break the rule and say you're going to be okay, but you're exactly where you should be, and you're gonna work through whatever this is, and it's gonna look however it should look. And I'd echo the part of seeing the level of communication that you're engaging in. I think it's amazing. So thank you,
David and Amanda. Go for it.
I was just struck and wanted to thank you both in how like your prose really tied together for me, and I guess I pictured Bonnie and Clyde, and this is good. This all works out much better. But there was something about the camaraderie and the friendship and the adventure, and it just for me resonated upon our own experiences and that the power of that, and how you could really feel that. So that was great to feel. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, to kind of echo off of that, the pros being tied together, I also heard that, I heard Casey, you talking about, the level of connection and how that was exceptionally important to you, and, always kind of striving to get back to that level, which I think is just brilliant, because I think, connection is, just exceptionally important to our mental well-being. But then also, then as Laura was speaking and you could hear the emotion, and I found myself wondering if maybe part of that is being scared of complacency. And, Catherine, as you were saying, as stone to sharpen yourself against, that, maybe if you don't have that stone, that you don't feel your sharpest, or you don't, that if you sit still for a minute, then, things kind of come down around you. So I wondered if that was part of that. And thank you, yes, for sharing. It could definitely tell the relationship between the two of you is strong.
Thank you for sharing both of those. All right, Bill and Felice.
When Laura was talking about the pain, it really got to me. I mean, the pain of not being able to get a hold of your partner when it was someone else is just, it just really digs at you, and just, I felt it. And, I've known that pain, and it brought it back to me just to hear you.
Bill, can I jump in and ask you, this is another nice way to do some feedback. Yeah. When it affects you as obviously as it affected, as you're sharing, is there a place in your body you felt it when you heard Laura talking about it?
It's like a knot in the stomach. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like just this anxious, just knot that you want to be gone.
Yeah.
You want it to be released. And, you just want it to go away, and it doesn't.
Thank you. That helps us understand your experience, and I think will probably help Laura feel heard in a similar way, to know how it hit your body. So that's another nice feedback tip. Thank you for sharing that. Felice?
I understand and resonate with the idea of highs and lows, where you're really connecting, and then you're fighting and connecting and fighting, and then you really communicate because it's important. And that I see a lot of healthiness with a lot of what they're doing, just because we've been there and done that, and I've seen good outcomes. So, but I know the struggles, and I feel it tonight. And I thank you both for being vulnerable with that.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, Laura and Casey, will you share a bit about what it felt like to be witnessed and hear that feedback?
It's really nice to to feel heard, to have other people, my partner and I, we've had these same discussions so many times, and sometimes it's really nice to hear, a little bit of feedback from the outside. And that, again, like with everything else, as different as each one of us are, really when it comes down to the troubles that we face, they're all so similar if you break them down. So it's really nice to be able to see, people are, having all these different feelings and hardships and good times as well, but they're different, but at the same time, we're all very similar. So it's nice to know we're not alone. Thank you, guys.
Right.
So I like those same things. I loved your platitudes, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I like hearing when people say, "Don't worry, it will all be okay." But it's semi-reassuring from maybe not from just like random strangers, but kind of from other humans that have been on the journey. So thank you.
Fair enough. Great. All right. Well, that wraps up our introductory round, giving you all a chance to get a little tidbit to know these amazing, brave couples that have joined us on this journey, Power of Witness, and to hopefully learn a little bit about feedback and see it in action, real time. Nobody practiced this. They barely had any chance to read about it or understand until they heard me teach it as you heard me do so. So I hope that this has been inspiring for you all that are listening, and that you will listen in. Make sure you listen to the podcast episodes that Normalizing Non-Monogamy did with each of these couples before you listen to me get them on the hot seat. I think you'll have a much richer experience. And tell your friends and stay with us on the journey. Thanks to all of you who got in the ring with me tonight, and Em and Finn for creating the ring for us.
Yeah, I wanted to just say thank you as well again to everybody. I know we thanked you at the beginning, but I think thank you for letting us be a part of this. I know we're not necessarily going to be on the hot seat, but letting us be, witness to all of this is awesome.
On the top row of the bleachers.
Yeah. And we just wanted to say thank you again to all of you for being here.
It's amazing. And I am so excited to go on this journey with all of you. I know I've said that before in the emails and stuff, but I really mean it. I'm incredibly excited to be here and do this work with all of you.
All right. Thank you all.
And we're all back. I should say that it's Finn, me, and Catherine. And we wanted to just say thank you again to everyone for first listening to this, but also to those that came on and are doing this Power Witness program with us. Again, thank you. It's amazing. And we're so excited to share all of this with you.
And a huge special extra thank you to Catherine for doing this with us. I know we're providing the platform, the podcast, but we couldn't do this without her.
No.
Even a little bit. So thank you, Catherine, for being here with us and for helping us create this type of content. We appreciate it.
Well, and I just love that. First of all, you guys give people a platform to get to share their vulnerability and their version of non-monogamy, but then your commitment to say, hey, can we nudge you to go a little deeper? That is such an exciting thing to be part of. So thank you for helping me nudge people to go deeper. And I really hope that those of you that are listening, it will nudge you to go deeper in your conversations with your partners.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we don't have a whole lot else to say other than if you want to find, all the resources, again, head over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. There is a Power of Witness tab now where the episodes that are part of this will be. Mm-hmm. Actually, they're going to be, they'll be in a Power Witness tab.
Yes.
And
you'll be able to find them multiple places on our website.
Pretty easily, yes. So,
and I'll also say that on those, in the show notes, make sure you check out the follow-up resources. That's one of the things I'm very committed to in my coaching is sharing the work of my mentors and the people that influence me, and as much as possible, making sure that you have free content. So missing out on those show notes, you are leaving a lot on the table. So click, click, click.
And if you don't want to go to your browser, there's your show notes in your podcast player.
Yes, all of them are included in there as well. And if you want to find out more information to sign up for Catherine's next Power of Witness groups, there's also links to her website on our website and have all the information to sign up there.
Quick addendum, I was a liar. It's under the resources tab, and under the resources tab, it'll say Power Witness.
Yes.
My apologies.
All right, so let's tell them who's coming up first. Who's on the hot seat first?
Yes. Next episode will be Bill and Felice. And
that's dropping today as well, as you probably noticed in your podcast player.
Yep. And then every week after this on Friday will be the next 4
episodes for the next 4 Fridays.
Yeah. And again, if you have time to go back and listen to Bill and Felice's first interviews with Finn and Emma, it will add a lot of texture and complexity to the hot seat interview.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Links in the show notes.
Links are in the show
We can't say that enough.
And with that, let's go listen to Bill and Felice.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.